Okay, let's take a look at some drawings from Michael. Now, this particular title suggests that they've beautifully reproduced these drawings on fine quality paper. And I tend to think they've used average paper and everything looks like a photocopy. I think the moral of the story is never judge a book by its blurb or its marketing spiel. But this is what I have, and my favourite Michelangelo works would be the ink drawings and the models for his sculptures, so wax and clay models. Unfortunately, most of the drawings and models have been lost or destroyed, so there's not much going around anymore. And I think beautifully reproduced, aren't they? These drawings. I think that they say Michelangelo destroyed most of his drawings at the end. Wouldn't surprise me. He didn't want people to see the drawings he wasn't happy with, apparently, and see how much work he put into his finished pieces. Apparently, this is the theory. It would undermine the idea of him doing it effortlessly. And none of this is confirmed. He could have done it in a rage. He could have done it just because he hated all of his old work. And I don't know. But most of them have been lost, and the wax models are easily destroyed in fires and so on, and the terracotta models are the unfired. Definitely the unfired models can break easily, so over the centuries careless people have lost or destroyed the models. That's my favourite little figure from these groups. And that's where Dover comes in. Dover comes and beautifully reproduces what's left, apparently, and leaves out a whole lot of drawings, good drawings, from the limited supply, which I have to go and collect online. So my favourite ink drawings are the ones that aren't rendered. These must be from sculpture. I like these ones. I like these types of ink drawings rather than the rendered ones. Typically. That's the Sybil from the chapel. So Dover's, that's a 31mm. They could have just done this a little bigger, this book, and given us the full size. They would have had to use too much of this fine quality rag here. I like these little ink figure sketches he does. Well, efficiently done anatomy components. This is my favourite of all of them in here. It's great lines and style. This one's almost the right size. Almost, they almost got it. It is interesting too how he sets up the basic forms. So it's a shame that he actually apparently destroyed most of his drawings, because by that age he would have had a large collection. I mean, I suppose he probably gave away a lot, because he used to give away things as gifts. So, but there would have been a lot of work like this. Studies, these are good too. These are interesting to me, more interesting compared to some of the strictly render stuff. Now I really don't like any of these chalk drawings, to be honest. They just tend to get just awkward. We'll go and have a look. And here we have the issue of the problem with shrinking heads to make them godly proportion, but the problem is you shrink the head in order to get to a figure that's maybe 9 heads, maybe 10 heads even there. If you're not adjusting the body, then you get a body of a man who's 7 heads with this small head, and it just looks like you got a pinhead. And this is something that I find quite irritating, actually, because you end up with these very broad bodies that are too broad, they're too thick for a hominid figure that would be that tall, where it would actually elongate more. That's what happens when you use models that are mortal proportion, and then you just shrink the head on them. Always irritated me. Always irritated me. It's a nice pose there. So we have a bit of an issue with this because I'm trying to, the light's not, it's not just the, the lighting's not ideal, but these are so badly reproduced that you can't really win. They are actually very grey in real life. I like this one as well. Yes, that's the exact size that it's supposed to be. So happy. Finally. So then you can know exactly the pen width that he was using. That he cut his pen to. Of course he didn't. He didn't buy a nib. So you see this is an issue with shrinking. I mean, you have to shrink this one for this size, but it looks, that's done in chalk. That's 37 centimeters actually, so almost A3. And when you shrink it, you start to, it looks like it's done in a different medium. It looks like it's, yeah, it's looks like it's done in silver point or something like that, because it's all been shrunk, but it's not. And also the bad reproduction. So yeah, overall a very disappointing book really. Not all Dover's fault, because Michael destroyed so much of his work, apparently, allegedly, but I think they still failed on many levels, and I wouldn't recommend basically anything they do. Don't buy any of those. I have some other Dover books, and they're also terribly done. But I bought them without really seeing inside them, so I learned the hard way. Here we go. The illustrations are beautifully reproduced in large format on fine quality paper. Now, how is this large format? That's an A4 size. Is that large format? I guess it's large format compared to a paperback, but this is an art book, so yeah, avoid those ones as well. Just avoid all of them. And you can find a lot of Michelangelo drawings now online collected, and I recommend doing that. That's what I've done. I've collected a lot now in JPEG form. Pretty good scans from museums, and you can also get a lot of the models, so it's actually a bit of a shame these days, because I prefer books if they're done well, but a lot of these books aren't done well, and I don't think they're going to get better, because now everything's going online. There's probably less incentive to get better images and better collections and produce books of the work, because, for example, Michelangelo's got all these, well, not, he doesn't have a whole lot, but he does have these models, wax and clay models. Now, I haven't seen a volume with his preparatory sculpture work, So you just have to go collect it yourself. But you could produce a volume with all the different views of these. There's this relatively small selection, but you could do all different views of these models and a thorough investigation into them, and you're just probably not going to get that. You just got to scrap around on the internet in museums and so on. But yeah, so the moral is that whenever you see these types of books with collections of their drawings or studies, I mean, these days you can go and you'll find there's a whole lot more in museums that don't make it into these volumes. You can collect a lot of them with your own investigations, and the scans are getting better. So I've got quite a few drawings from museums that are very high res now, that I could print on a decent printer, and probably, well, I'm sure they'd be better than these. So that's why I'm gravitating more towards collecting my own scans, downloading my own scans, and then just printing them, and then I can print them to size in many cases. So that does take a lot of time. So that's about all I've got to say. So there's some Michael artifacts, and I don't think I'll do any more of these, of the Dover books I've got, but you never know, I might be inspired to give them another chance on their large format, high quality paper. But the internet has exposed a lot of these art publishers. So in the old days, this is what you were stuck with. You also get these ones actually in colour now, because that's actually in sanguine. Well, I think I'll just end it there.